Today, we're diving into some really fascinating new research that kind of turns our whole idea of AI reasoning on its head. It suggests that to make AI truly smarter, we might have to teach it to stop thinking in words.
Right. We've all seen what these large language models can do. They can write poetry, they can code, they can draft your emails. It's amazing. But it begs a bigger question. When an AI is trying to solve a really tough problem, is it actually thinking the way you and I do? Or is it just playing an incredibly advanced game of predict the next word? Well, the answer seems to be a little of both, and that's where things start to get really interesting.
So, the heart of the problem, as these researchers see it, is something we can call the AI's language trap. See, we've been forcing these AIs to reason using human language, word by word, and it turns out that might be the very thing that's holding them back.
Okay, so the way we do it right now, the gold standard, is this technique called chain of thought. It's a pretty simple idea, really. You just tell the model to think out loud, to write out its reasoning step by step. And don't get me wrong, this was a huge leap forward, but it comes with some serious hidden costs.
And this slide really gets to the core of it. When we humans are really deep in thought, solving some tricky logic puzzle, brain scans actually show that the language parts of our brain can go quiet. We're thinking in concepts, in abstract ideas. But we've built these AIs to do all their thinking using the clunky and frankly inefficient tool of human language.
So this word-based way of thinking creates some major headaches. For one, it's super inefficient. The AI has to spend just as much energy on filler words like the and so as it does on the actual critical parts of the problem. It's also really restrictive. Once it writes down a word, that's it. It's locked into that single path. And finally, let's be honest, language evolved for us to talk to each other, not for mapping out complex multi-step logical plans. Which brings us to the big breakthrough here. What if we could just let the AI think without words? This is where the idea of continuous thought comes in.
Think of it like this. Instead of forcing the AI to live and work in a word space where every single step has to be a word, we let it reason in an idea space. This is its home turf, its natural internal environment. It's a rich, complex space of concepts and connections, what the pros call a latent space.
The researchers themselves put it perfectly here. The dream is to let the model just do its thing, reason freely in that idea space without having to worry about grammar or sentence structure, and then only translate its final answer back into words when it needs to tell us what it came up with.
So, how on earth did they pull this off? Well, they developed a brand new method they're calling Coconut. And yes, that stands for chain of continuous thought.
The way it works is actually pretty elegant. The AI reads the problem, just like normal. But then, right at the moment it would normally spit out a word, Coconut steps in. It takes that internal brain state, that continuous thought, and feeds it directly back into the model as the next piece of information. It creates this amazing reasoning loop that never has to be translated into words.
And that's the whole point. The AI is now thinking in its native tongue, so to speak, a language of pure data, pure relationships that's built for just one thing, solving the problem as efficiently as possible.
But here's where it gets wild. Letting the AI think this way didn't just make it a little bit better. Oh no, it unlocked an entirely new, much more powerful way of reasoning. It's like it found a hidden superpower.
Okay, thinking in a continuous loop sounds pretty abstract, right? So what does that actually look like? What's going on inside the machine's head? The best way to picture it is like this. The old way, chain of thought, is like writing a sentence. Once you pick a word, you're pretty much committed to that path. But Coconut is like building a mind map. It can hold multiple, even competing ideas in its head at the same time and explore all these different branches of logic at once.
And what's just incredible is that the AI figured this out on its own. It spontaneously started using a reasoning pattern that computer scientists call a breadth-first search. It's basically a super systematic way of exploring every possible option layer by layer. They didn't program it to do this. It just emerged as the best way to think in this new free space.
And the power of this is huge. The model can basically juggle several potential solutions at once. With each loop of thought, it gets a little smarter and starts to prune away the paths that aren't working out. And this is key. It avoids that classic mistake of committing to one single path too early, which might just be the wrong one.
All right, that all sounds great in theory, but does it actually work any better? Let's look at the numbers, because the proof is definitely in the performance.
So, on this really tough logical reasoning test that requires a ton of planning. The results are just, wow. The old chain of thought method, it got about 77% right. Pretty good. But Coconut, a whopping 97% accuracy. That isn't just a little better, that's a complete game changer.
But wait, it gets even better. It's not just smarter, it's way, way more efficient. Take a look at this. To solve these problems, the old method had to generate nearly 50 words, or tokens. Coconut did the same job with just over 14. It's doing more complex thinking with less than a third of the effort.
So the takeaway here is crystal clear. For these really hard problems, this new way of thinking isn't a trade-off. It's just flat out better. It's more accurate, and it's way more efficient.
So what does all this mean for the future of AI? Where do we possibly go from here?
I think what we're looking at is a truly pivotal moment. For years, we've tried to get AI to reason using our tools, our language. This work shows that to build the next generation of thinking machines, we might need to let them think in their own way, free from the limits we've put on them.
And this is just the beginning. The researchers themselves say the next big step could be to pre-train these models from day one to think in this continuous way. Imagine the kinds of abilities that could unlock across all sorts of different tasks.
Which really leaves us with a mind-bending final thought. We've just opened a door to a new kind of machine intelligence, one that isn't tied to the way humans communicate. So if an AI can now think without words, what in the world will it think of next?